PHP Programming Standards. Usually, when someone talks about standards for programming, they are well-defined, documented standards. In the case of PHP, there are as many different standards as there are programmers. Each company has their own particular way that they want you to program and format and comment your code. Each programmer in turn will have their own little quirks and special ways of accomplishing the goal. I expect that as you continue to learn and develop your PHP skills, you will in turn develop your own PHP standards for programming. The goal of any standard that is set for programming is to make the code readable and understandable. Depending on the environment that you are working in, this can mean a couple of different ways of formatting your code. If you are working in an environment that is sharing code between groups or individuals, and there are many people that are going to work on your particular piece of code, then you'll want to comment your work. Commenting is something that programming teachers will harp on you to do from day one. However, in the real world, sometimes you just simply do not have time to comment. I personally do not comment unless I have lots of time to kill. This is because when I am working for a customer, the goal is to get the job done on time and within the quoted amount. Because the programming and development world is so cutthroat right now, quotes for programming are often low to begin with. If you start commenting every line and function, you will end up spending twice the amount of time than if you had just done the quoted program. Commenting serves the purpose of making code understandable to yourself and to others. I prefer to subscribe to the theory that if the code is clean and simple to begin with, then it is not hard to understand. If someone cannot figure out what your clean and simple code is doing, then they are not someone who should be working on the code. This is not a sentiment that you will hear teachers or instructors generally voicing. But the real world of programming does not often take the shape that some teachers would lead you to believe. So back to standards in general. There are many different things that can help to make your code understandable and simple to read. The first and most important is indenting or tabbing your code. This is when you hit the tab key for a section of code that lies inside a statement that needs to be closed. For instance, let's take a look at this code sample. In this first sample, it is tough to tell where the if statement and where the else statements are. This is perfectly valid code, but it is tough to read and hard to understand exactly what is happening here. Commenting would help, but you still have a readability issue. This code block is also very hard to debug. If you had an error in here, you may have a hard time determining where exactly that error occurred. The next code block is much simpler to understand and debug. It is clear what statements belong to what block and is aesthetically much more pleasing to the eye. There are many different quirks that I could tell you about in relation to how I format my programming, such as spacing between some statements, how many spaces to indent your tabs, whether you leave curly brackets opening a statement on the line of the statement or on the line of the code block, etc., etc., etc. However, I would prefer that as we go along, you adopt the standards that you are more comfortable with and make the most sense to you. In the end, it is you that will have to read and understand your own code, so it is important that it is developed with your own preferences in mind. If you ever do work for a company that has their own set of standards for PHP code writing, they will make it very clear up front what those standards are, and you can adopt them as you need to. In the meantime, evolve your own standards and focus on writing code cleanly and simply, and you will never have any trouble reading or understanding it.